and I'll be saving it and posting it onto Team Sideline later this evening or tomorrow, so you can refer back to, or for anybody else who isn't able to make it, but there are questions they have for them to be able to refer back to at any point. We don't have many people in this meeting here, so we'll try and keep it a little bit more casual. Everyone, if you could please keep your cameras off and keep yourself on mute. That will help the meeting flow much quicker, and I do want to respect your time and get you out of here as quickly as possible. The basketball managers meeting is usually a little bit quicker of a meeting just because there aren't as many people and there aren't as many things that need to be discussed as far as basketball is concerned that we do with our other leagues like soccer and softball. So I do want to respect your time, and I want to keep this as quick as possible. At any point, if I'm speaking too quickly, please let me know. I'd be happy to slow down and help explain things. For anyone as well who, if you do have any questions or anything about something I said, I would please ask that you type it into the chat section, which is a box on the right side of the page. This way I can see it and I can read it, and if I think it's something that I do need to address immediately, I can address immediately. If it's something that will come up eventually, then I'll be able to address it later. And it will help the meeting flow much faster. I understand there are people who are calling in. If you do have questions or anything, please take note of your questions and bring them up later towards the end of the meeting. The meeting will have three basic parts of it. The first part is I'm just going to go over Team Sideline, which is our league registration and league resource page, which is something that is good for you to have as a manager throughout the course of the season. Next, I'll be going through the rule book. That should be pretty quick, especially for returning teams who have a basic understanding of the rules. And as well, joining me is our head referee, Glenn, who will be able to help go into more details with the rules and give you a little bit more description on why things are called the way they are, how they're called, to give you a better idea of what to expect during the season. And then we're going to end with a Q&A, which is where you can just ask me questions. So right now, to begin the meeting, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by sharing my screen so that everybody can see what I'm looking at. And right now, the most important thing on the screen right now is going to be, this is our page. It's called Team Sideline. This is going to be the resource that you want to use as a captain for the entire season, basically to find out when your games are going to be played, where they're going to be played. Is going to keep track of scores and everything else you need to know for this season and for future seasons as well. Really easy to get to. I would recommend bookmarking this page throughout the course of the season so you can get to it easily. But when you're at the, you can go open any web browser, type www.teamsideline.com/Ventura. You do have to put the /Ventura or else it'll take you to a very different page. Enter, and it will take you right here. Right now, as you scroll down, you'll see information about our leagues, photos. This is a ticker that has all games that are coming up in the next couple of days. If we scroll down even more, you'll see information about our basketball league. It still says registration is open. I'm sorry, it's not. It's closed. It's been closed, and we're full with a wait list for all of our leagues right now. But this is where you're going to be able to find a team roster if you don't have one, and the manager's guide, which we will be talking about later. But the first thing I want to draw your attention to is going to be the schedules over here on the left. So I actually posted these a couple of days ago. We were able to finish our registration early. Thank you everyone for getting signed up as quickly as you did. It makes my life much easier. So I really do appreciate everybody calling in or going online, figuring out how to get signed up, signing up, and taking care of things. I have almost everybody's roster. I have almost everybody's team names. And that just makes everything easier when I'm putting things together. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look over here at the schedules. It's the summer of 23. You'll click on this little arrow, and you'll come down with 4 different options. If you signed up for the Tuesday League, then you're right here. The Thursday League, you're right here. The Sunday League, because we had so many teams, we split into 2 divisions. And the way those work is that there are 8 teams in each division. So you'll play 7 games in your division, and you'll then have one crossover game with a team of the opposite standing as from your team in the playoffs. This is because we guarantee 8 games, 8 technically regular season games. So but when we do this crossover, it's 7 games plus a 1 guaranteed playoff game for every team. And once the playoffs come closer, I'll go into more detail about how that all works. So once you find out what day your team is in, or if you already know, go ahead and click on the link right there, and it'll take you into a new page. And this is where you're going to want to refer to everything in our leagues. Team names, your records, your points for, your points against. Everything is going to be up at the top. And any other information, notes or anything are going to be right here. As you scroll down, you're going to see more information about your schedule. So the first games are this Sunday, which is why we wanted to get the schedule out as soon as possible. And these are the teams that are playing. This is the date, time, the home team, the away team, and the location. If you're not sure where the location is, you can always click right here where it says West Park Gym, and it will take you to a map of West Park Gym. And this does work from mobile devices as well. Scroll down, you can look at your schedule. Don't print it out and put it on the fridge just yet. Schedules do tend to change over the course of the season. When they do, it falls onto my responsibility to reach out to you to let you know what those changes are. If they're a few weeks ahead, usually I'll just make the change and I'll send an email. If they're within a week, I'll update the schedule here, but then I'll do my best to call you to make sure you're aware of any changes that may be coming up. Please keep in mind we are not playing on Father's Day, but otherwise we're playing all the way through. For Sunday, there are no bye weeks because we have an even number of games. For Tuesday and Thursday, every team will get 1 bye week. Really quick, I want to show you what a completed season does look like. So I'm going to show you an archived basketball league. We'll look at the Sunday league from this past season. So you see here, after games are played, the schedules are updated. We have the records here, points for and against, differential. Scores are put in here by my staff. If there are mistakes with the score, please email me. I'm happy to look it up and check, to double check and make sure. My staff make mistakes. They're humans. It's a very easy fix. Just let me know if there are problems and we'll be happy to fix it. But you'll see the schedule posted here. Last Sunday was a little bit weird because we had to share the gym with VYBA at the beginning of the season, but we made it work. We had to make changes for holidays. People forfeit. Like I said, there are schedule changes, and we do our best to communicate those changes to you as soon as possible so that you're not showing up to the gym at the wrong time expecting a game. And then at the end of every season, we have the playoffs. Playoffs are single elimination, just so you know. Okay, so that's how our schedule and structure works for the leagues. The next thing we're going to be going through is the handbook, which at the moment is going to be listed right here, the manager's guide. However, this isn't going to be up here forever. I'm going to be taking this box down in the next day or two, just because the registration is closed and it's time to focus on other leagues. But for the future, you can always find it on the Team Sidelight homepage. At the top, there's an option called Downloads. Click on it. It will open up a page with all of our different sports. Click on the arrow next to basketball, and you can open up the handbook. And it will just open up a PDF file for you that you can then download. Okay. And now for everybody's favorite part. We're going to go through this. However, it is here. Everybody knows where it is. So I'm not going to go through it in crazy detail. I trust you all to read. And if there are any questions about it, please feel free to email me and I'll address them as well as I can. I do want to go through some of our more, anything that we've had issues with in the past so that I can put a little bit more detail into them. So first thing that you're going to notice up here at the top is these are the days and times and seasons for all of our sports programs. This does need to be updated because we've tried to make women's drop-in go, but we haven't had a successful women's drop-in program in a while, so we are just going to be removing this. You'll notice it says D division here. We used to have two separate divisions, a D division, which was the lower division, and a C division. C played on a different night than the D divisions did. However, since we've returned from COVID, we haven't been able to get a functioning C division going. So we've actually been using the gym for other things on Monday nights. So because of that, there really are no divisional differences between the nights now in basketball. Assume that there are going to be, teams ranging from good to bad on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I left a note. I've been updating the league registration details on the registration website to kind of remind people that we're trying to push the higher level teams to sign up for Thursday night versus Tuesday night. However, we do understand that many people only get one night a week to play, so we're not going to restrict anybody from playing if they don't think they're good enough or if they think they're too good for a Tuesday night. So all nights are essentially still just D division, but if you do have any questions or clarifications, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to try and explain things a little bit better for you. Every day for your game, you're going to check into the gym. My staff are going to be seated at a small table, and everybody on the team needs to go and check in. The first day of the season, we need everybody to sign the team roster. And then every game after that, everybody checks in. They need to sign the attendance page. Everybody needs to sign the attendance page because we have playoffs at the end of the year. And if you want somebody to play in the playoffs, they have to play in at least 3 games over the course of the season. We think that playing in 3 games is, a pretty low bar to set for any player who's actually on your team. In the past, it used to be 5 or 6, I think, in years past, but we've settled for 3. We do want to be understanding to the fact that you are all adults, you've all got family, work, other things going on in your lives that are probably more important than a rec league basketball game. But we still want it to be fair to everybody else who's been playing throughout the course of the season. If at any point you do need to add players or remove them from your team, please email me and I can make those adjustments for you. But any new players need to be checked into the team roster on their first game. This accounts for substitutes as well. And any new players as well need to be added before the 4th game is played, or else they will not be eligible for playoffs. We'll only allow rostered players to play in the playoffs. Additionally, this guidebook is also a reminder for you and your players and your fans as well of the expectations that we have for you when you participate in any of our programs. Whether or not you want to, you still do represent the city of Ventura and our leagues when you are a part of our programs. And as such, we do have rules and expectations that you need to follow. So please, I would recommend sharing this guide with your team so that they know what to expect and so they can look up and see if they have questions. As well, the handbook will be at each game. My staff will have one in front of them at all times. So if you do want to double check something, you can refer to it. Please, everyone, remember that there is a code of conduct, which I'll be going into more later, but it's basically an assessment of you need to follow the code of conduct or there will be repercussions. We have kicked people out of the league before. We have forfeited games because players don't like the calls that are being made and they aren't able to express themselves civilly, let's say. And we don't want to do that. I know Glenn and the other referees don't like to do it. I don't like to do it. I don't want to make those phone calls the next day, but we have to protect the integrity of the league and to keep it safe and fair for other teams as well. We all have other things going on in our lives. Nobody wants to get hurt playing basketball. We all have work to go to the next day. We all have other things that we enjoy doing. The rules are there to protect you and other people, which is why we enforce them, and which is why we do have repercussions and penalties for those who can't play by those rules. Everybody's already submitted, so team eligibility, you're all good to go. Friendly reminder, though, that your roster cap is 12 players. We do understand that sometimes people get hurt, or work life situations come up, so some players can't be as consistent as you'd like. We do allow players to have more than 12 people on the team. However, we only give out 12 prizes at the end of the year. So if you have 13 players on your team and you win the championship, somebody doesn't get a prize. Sorry. Mhm. Um, Players can only play on one team per night. If we notice that there is a player who's playing on multiple teams on any given night, I will have a talk with both managers. The player will have to decide what team they play for. And if they are then caught playing for another team, that team will forfeit their game. The only reason we would ever allow somebody to play for multiple teams in one night is if they are filling in as a substitute to prevent a forfeit from happening. Keep in mind, though, that teams can play with 4 players. So if you have 4 regular players on your team, you don't get to pull in a 5th substitute. That's just an automatic forfeit for using an illegal player. If you have 3 players show up, you can grab a 4th substitute to keep the game going, but you do not get to use a 5th player, or else that is a forfeit. Mhm. Mhm. Going into some more of the specific rules about how the games themselves work. We're going to be using the CIF rulebook for the most part, but we do have a few variations. First off, since this is a City of Ventura facility, no food or alcohol or drinks are allowed in the gymnasium. Only water and sports drinks, if you need them, are allowed in, but no sodas, definitely no alcohol. If the refs see you drinking alcohol during a game, they can forfeit the game automatically, and then you have to pay the entire referee fees. Um, the refs can even do that if they just suspect you of being intoxicated during a game. You do have to remain sober throughout the course of the game. Don't come showing up sloppy. It's it's a people get hurt in those situations, and our goal is always to promote safety. Referee fees are $35 per team. You'll bring the $35, you'll give it to my staff who are working at the table. They'll divvy it up and give it to the refs. Like I said before, if you forfeit for any reason, then you're going to have to pay the forfeit fee for both teams. The referees still need to get paid because they are there in attendance, and we're not going to charge the non-forfeiting team for a game they didn't play. You can pay the forfeit fees in a few different ways. Is if you're already there, you can just give it to the staff person, or I'll be following up with you some point during the week, and then you can bring the full $70 for your previous game to your next game, along with your additional $35 for the upcoming game. Yes, it's steep, so please try not to forfeit. If you do think you're going to forfeit ahead of time. We give a 24-hour grace period for forfeits. And that's not even a hard and fast rule. The way I see it is if I show up to my office on Tuesday morning and I have an email from you that says you're forfeiting your game that night, I will consider that as a full day's notice for forfeit. If you had emailed me the night before at 7 p.m. and got the full 24 hours, I still wouldn't have been able to do anything. But as long as I can make adjustments to the schedule as soon as I get into the office, I'll consider it a full day's notice. There's a running clock during games unless the score is within 10 points in the last 2 minutes. In the last 2 minutes, in which case the clock will stop when the ball goes out of bounds. We do standard foul rules. On the 7th team foul, any foul player will shoot 1 and 1. On a 10th team foul, they'll shoot 2 free throws no matter what. If a team commits 2 consecutive fouls in the last 2 minutes of a game, regardless of how many team fouls there are, the player will automatically start shooting 1 and 1. Da-da-dum.
Just for clarification, it's not necessarily consecutive fouls. It's just the second foul in the last 2 minutes would put them in the bonus.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Glenn. So the second foul in the last 2 minutes of a close game is going to be switched to 1 and 1, regardless of team fouls. So it doesn't mean foul. It is your first foul will stand as it is regular if it's your fourth or fifth foul, but the second foul within that, we're now at free throws.
And it would stay 1 and 1 until they get to their 10th foul to make it a double bonus. So
All right,
they could have one team foul and then do 2 more. So now you're at 3 and shooting bonus, but then you'll be shooting 1 and 1 until 10. So
okay,
be a lot of 1 and 1.
Awesome, thank you, Glenn. So yeah, in the last 2 minutes of a game, the second foul is 1 and 1 until you get to 10. So that needs to be the total team fouls. We don't allow flagrant fouls. Obviously, I feel that goes without saying. If anyone commits a flagrant foul, they will receive a technical and then have a 10-minute sit-out penalty. All technicals are a 10-minute sit-out unless they're just for procedural matters. If you get 2 technicals in the same game, you will be ejected and you'll get a 1-week suspension from league play. Any player getting 4 technicals in one season will lose the right to play in playoffs at the end of the season and be suspended for the rest of the season. Any unsportsmanlike foul will be a 2-minute sit-out of the game. And if they get another unsportsmanlike, that will be a technical and then result in a 10-minute sit-out. And once again, unsportsmanlike fouls and flagrant fouls are basically given out at the referee's discretion. There are, and we all know the rules of basketball for the most part as far as fouling is concerned. So these aren't simple fouls. These are over-the-top fouls. My best way to explain that is don't do anything. I know all referees are going to call the game differently. They're going to assess severity differently. What I always remind people is that don't push it. If you don't know if something's crossing the line, don't do it. If you have to ask or wonder, it's probably crossing the line, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. Okay. We do like to. We are pretty.
Can I give my 2 cents on that?
Of course.
So there are flagrant fouls, which are technical fouls, and then there are intentional fouls. And intentional fouls aren't necessarily just defined as intent. It's also defined as severity, but not as bad as a flagrant. So we could call an intentional foul on certain plays, and that way there's no technical foul, but it's still the penalty is 2 shots on the ball out of bounds. So we do have a little latitude there as far as determining the severity of the foul. So there is a difference.
Perfect. Thank you, Glenn. And always.
And one other thing, the 10-minute rule. I don't think we have it established in the rule book, but if it's within the last 10 minutes of the game and they have to sit out, but they don't serve the full 10 minutes because the game ends, then we usually have them sit out the remainder of the time at the start of the next game they play. That becomes a little bit more of an administrative issue. Sometimes it's, well documented, sometimes it's not, but just so that players know that that's how we normally handle it.
Okay. Glenn, how about you and I follow up with that at some point, if not later this week, then next week, just to figure out what the best way is to keep track of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. But thank you, Glenn. He is our head, like I said before, he's our head referee. He's going to have the best understanding of what the referees are looking for and how best to interact with them as far as fouls and discourse go. Next up, we do take our professionalism very seriously, and as such, we always need to make sure that our staff, referees, and everyone associated with the leagues feel comfortable in the situations that they're in. So we're very strict in terms of threats, verbal abuse, or physical confrontations with our staff or anyone involved with the leagues. If anybody is, caught doing any of those, a threat of violence, verbal abuse, or physical contact unnecessarily or aggressively with anybody associated with the league, they're going to be suspended from the league. And depending on how severe we think the altercation was, will determine how long you're going to be suspended for. Could be as short as a week, could be as long as the rest of the season. Uh, Teams get 3 timeouts per game, with 1 additional timeout per overtime. Timeouts are 1 minute in length. Substitutes need to be whistled in after being called by the referee, and subs do need to be checked in at the front table by my staff. Don't just run onto the court. This isn't hockey. Games start on their scheduled time. And teams can play with as few as 4 players. Glenn, I know that we're going to have a talk about what to do if there are 3 players and somebody's running late. So we'll follow up
Well,
with that.
the high school rule is they must start with 4 players. So we will give a little bit of latitude depending on if we're running too far behind, and that's usually a bigger issue on Sundays because there's so many games. But we usually try to give them like a 5-10 minute grace period to get there. And then if they don't, then we ask other players if they want to join the other team that's short, just so that they can play, because the other team has a full team. Everybody went out of their way to drive to get to the gym. Last thing you want to do is go straight to them. So that's why it'll still be a forfeit for the team that didn't have enough players, but at least everybody gets to play. They get to run, like I said, and then everybody who showed up got to play. So that seems to have worked out really well. But what we usually do as referees is that we ask that the team, that both teams are okay with it. So if there's a team, like the team that didn't forfeit doesn't like that idea and they just want to go home, then that's okay too. But I don't think we've ever had that situation. I think most teams are open to it, and that way the offending team that's forfeiting doesn't have to pay the double fee. So they will still pay the fees for the game, but it's still considered a forfeit in the loss column, in the win-loss column.
Perfect. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, so we do allow some leeway if players are running late. We want games to happen. That's ultimately our goal. So we'll try to work with you as much as possible. Like we said, though, you need to have 4 players, 4 rostered players. It means you're ready to go. It means we start the game. Any fewer than that, we'll give you a few minutes of leeway, but probably we can give you maxes like 5 minutes before we forfeit you, and we just have a scrimmage, basically.
And everybody be prepared. Be prepared for the county fair in August, because we had the Strawberry Festival this year, and that turned out to be quite a debacle with the traffic. Like, we had to start like a half hour late.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Because everybody was. Yeah, so everyone just be mindful of the county fair that starts up in August.
No, I'll be sure to send out reminders about that. If there is a tie at the end of regulation, there's a 3-minute overtime period. Each team will receive 1 extra timeout with a running clock, until the teams are within single digits in the final minute, just like during the regulation game. And we allow 3 overtime periods before we just say the game is tied. We have other games that need to be played. We need to get them going on. One thing, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier before, but everybody, please tell everyone on your team to bring a dark jersey and a white jersey. Bring both to each game. If you do not bring both colors to each game, both teams show up with dark jerseys, that will make officiating very difficult. Do not make the refs' jobs harder than it already is. It will also make my scorekeeper's job difficult, which will lead to incorrectly reported or tracked games. Everybody brings a dark and a white. If you can have numbers on them, It's highly recommended as well. Once again, it makes the job for my staff and the officials much easier. Um, I think I've already gone over the forfeited games. Please let me know ahead of time. This is my email, or you can call my number. Um, if you no-show forfeit, then you're going to be paying the entire $70 forfeit fee for the other team as well. You can schedule a payment with me, or you can just bring it to the next game, and my staff will get it to the correct referees.
Hey, Tyler, as far as the fee, just a reminder that some of the teams don't have enough cash that they can garner up at the start of games, and then they'll ask one of the referees if they'll take an electronic payment, and we've done that in the past, so we're open to that. If
That's
that
that's
makes it
great.
easier.
If the referees are okay with getting paid digitally, I'm fine with it. However, the teams want to get money to the referee. If both parties are okay with it, I'm okay with it as well.
Okay, good.
Sounds good. The top 8 teams from Tuesday and Thursday both make playoffs. Like I said, for Sunday, every team makes playoffs, and they have their first game as their crossover game. Once again, players need to play in at least 3 regular season games to be eligible. The overall champion for each day will receive prizes, which means the Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday champs each get prizes. In order to prevent injuries, jewelry such as wristwatches, bracelets, and neck chains may not be worn by any player. If you've got it very well hidden and covered and it doesn't pop out, we're more permitting of it. But if it's visible, if it's showing, if it can catch onto something or touch another player or cut somebody else, it's off. Mhm. This is very rare for basketball because it's an indoor facility. But in the event that a game needs to be canceled for any reason, if it's canceled on our end, it will be made up at the end of the season. We will reschedule it, and that game will still be played later. This does not apply to forfeits. Forfeited games are counted as wins and losses for the non-forfeiting and the forfeiting team. Canceled games on our end are going to be replayed. Okay. Here's the code of conduct. I'm just going to go through it really quickly. But basically, anyone doing any one of these actions is going to be kicked out of the gym immediately. Consuming alcohol, aggressive action or intimidation towards City Ventura staff, physical attack towards another person in the gymnasium at any time, profane language, anything profane, racial remarks, obscenities, derogatory comments towards another person in any way, shape, or form. This applies to players and fans as well. Don't think that if someone's coming to watch you, they can harass other players or the referees. They abide by the same rules that everybody else in that gymnasium does. If they're being derogatory or making threats towards an official or staff, the referees will kick them out as well. If your fans get kicked out and they refuse to leave, you will forfeit your game. So if they get kicked out and they don't want to leave, you need to go over and ask them to leave, or else you've just lost that game no matter what.
Hey, Tyler, on that, as a referee, we'll usually ask the team manager or the team captain to ask their fans to, stay in check. We'll give them one warning through them, and then if they don't abide by it, then we'll take care of business. So a little over top of that, but we had an incident in the Sunday championship game last season where there was a fight between a couple players, one on each team, and the couple of fans came onto the court. So we had to stop the game. We had to eject the fans. We ejected the players that were fighting, and we ejected all of the players that came off the bench. So that basically left 4-on-4 for the rest of the game. So everybody was in agreement to it. So it actually worked out pretty well. And it was a good game and all that, but we just can't have fans acting that way. I understand tempers flare and all that stuff, but just so you know that we leave it on the onus on the team manager first to help us out with that, because the fans will usually listen to them before they'll listen to us.
And I have had situations before where fans are causing a problem, and the team managers don't know. They basically come to me and they say, "What am I supposed to do? They're just fans." Once again, you are responsible for your fans as well as yourself, as well as the players on your team. Um, I don't want to have my staff call the police to basically come in and remove somebody with force. I don't want that to happen again. That has happened within the past year, and I don't like that. So please don't put us in a situation where we have to do that. The referees, continuing on, referees are the ones who make the final decisions on calls. You may not like the call the referee made. I'm sorry. The referees are human. They may make mistakes, but they are very well trained. They've been doing this for a very long time. There are certain things that they're always looking for and looking at. Sometimes things may happen on the court. Their view may be obstructed, that they may not get a perfect view of what happened. But you throwing a hissy fit and getting into a fight with them won't make your situation better. I guarantee it. And only managers may speak with the referee. This isn't to say that somebody can't, say I disagree with that call, ref, or anything like that. But if there are actual issues with officiating, they need to be brought addressed by the manager to the referee. If you as a manager don't feel like your voice is being heard by a referee, please email me, and then I will follow up to correct any issues that need to be addressed. Everyone, basketball is a physical sport. We understand there's a lot of contact in it. But once again, everyone, we all want to get home safely to our families and be able to continue to live our lives. Nobody is making $1 million contracts out there. All right, this is a recreational basketball league. Everybody's there to have fun. If you're playing with rough tactics that prevent somebody else from having fun, we will kick you out. Don't put the referees in a situation where they have to kick you out because you really, really, really want the ball and you don't care if there's somebody in your way. Mm-hmm.
Can I make one comment there? As referee, I'm in charge of assigning all the refs. So if there are any referees, what I try to tell all of them is that we want good communication. So we don't want people not talking to us if they can approach us respectfully. And if they want to question a call, that's fine. We'll tell them what we have. If we have referees that don't do that with you, then that's something that maybe you can bring to me. Most of you know me already. And I'll address it. But, most of it is just, okay, here's what happened. This is what we saw. We're sticking with the call and we're going to move on. Most people don't want to do that, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. Like Tyler said, we're human. We do the best we can. As long as we're hustling and we know the rules and, we're doing our best effort, then I can't complain about a referee. But if they're not communicating with you, if we have to cut it short and just say, okay, all the communication has to go through the manager, we'll do that. If you go to any high school game and you watch it at the start, the referees meet with the team coaches. So in this case, it'd be the team managers. At the start of every game, we say, hey, if you've got any issues, please have your team communicate through you, and then you talk to us. We're a little bit more liberal about that, and we do want good communication, but at some point we just have to move on and just let it go and then move on with the game. So if you have any problems with any of the referees and you know me and you want to come talk to me about it, we can step aside and talk about it and go from there. Because we do want to make it better. We want to make it a good league for you guys. A lot of you guys know basketball as you've seen it on TV. You're probably watching the game right now, but it's not exactly the same when it comes to reffing in our league because we use high school rules, number one. And number two, it's a city league. You guys pay your hard-earned money to play in the league, so we really want it to be enjoyable for you. So we want to be able to explain things to you so you know how it works. What you see on TV doesn't necessarily translate into what happens at West Park. So again, I insist on good communication with all the referees. So if you're not getting that, please let me know and I'll address it.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. like you said, we try to be open with everybody. We want communication. We want you to feel heard. Um, and as well, we want games to be played. Like we don't want to have holdups because people are getting into fights and arguments. Um, we'll listen to you. Our goal is always going to be first safety, and second flow of the game. At this point, I've gone through the manager's guide. Everybody knows that everybody has the resources to find it and their schedules. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I'll answer them as best I can. If I cannot answer them, then I will follow up with an email tomorrow. If you don't have any questions and if you think you're good to go, feel free to log out. And thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Hey Tyler, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, this is Elvis. I'm just wondering why my team name is not showing on the roster.
What's your team name?
Grease Boss.
On the the site map on the schedule?
Yeah, it just says my first and last name.
Okay, what day are you playing in?
Sunday.
East
right
or
now,
West?
it has us in the East League.
You're the East.
We're in the East.
Okay.
Did you get my
okay.
email by any chance, or
Sorry, what was that?
did you get my email?
Yes, I did. I thought I corrected that, but I guess I didn't. Yeah, just fixed it.
Oh, okay.
It's back to Greaseballs.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Apologies.
Okay.
I meant to fix that earlier, and I must have just missed it.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Good question from Anthony. Glenn, if you're still here, I think you might be able to answer this better than me. Did you implement the transition take rule? I don't understand that question. I'm sorry. Glenn, if you understand it, feel free to answer it. But Anthony, if you could give a little bit more description, that would be appreciated.
I think he's referring to the newly implemented NBA rule. So as far as I know, they have not implemented that in the high school rules. So,
okay.
So just as a reminder, we use high school rules first, and then anything that in the handbook would supersede any of the high school rules. So,
okay. Glenn, what is the transition take rule?
It has something to do with, I'm not 100% clear on it, but it has something to do with when the team has it's kind of like the breakaway foul when they have a breakaway and then, they're outnumbered on defense, so they purposely foul a player. Again, I don't know all the details behind it. I know it's something new that they've implemented this year. I guess I haven't watched enough NBA basketball to be able to.
Okay. So then Anthony, because Anthony did have a follow up here about mentioning intentional fouls. So Anthony, I think what Glenn may meant when he said intentional foul was more along the lines of egregious or aggressive fouls. Obviously, if someone's running on a fast break, you can grab their arm and smack it to slow them down, to put your force them to take the ball out normally. I think what Glenn meant by the intentionals in terms of technicals and flagrant fouls would be to see that happen and then to shoulder them and body them and smack them to the ground. That would be a flagrant foul, not just smacking their arm to take the foul to slow them down.
Glenn, an intentional foul could be just like we're down and we're down by single digits. It's last 2 minutes of the game. We want to stop the clock, and they just grab somebody instead of actually making a play on the ball. That's considered an intentional foul.
Okay,
so
but that's not flagrant though, correct? That wouldn't be a technical.
Correct. Intentional is similar penalty. It's 2 shots on the ball, but the only difference between that and a flagrant is that a flagrant is a technical foul, and now the player has to sit for 10 minutes, whereas an intentional, they don't. It's just a common foul.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. So the penalty is 2 shots on the ball, and the difference between the two is where would they take the ball out of bounds from there. But when I say intent, but we're using the severity aspect of it, so maybe they didn't have intent to foul somebody, but they fouled them hard enough where it wasn't just a common foul, but it wasn't so hard that we would deem it as a flagrant. So we're very cognizant of that because a flagrant, is a stiffer penalty because of the 10 minutes. So we're trying to clamp down on that because some people will take, hard swipes at the ball and they'll say, well, I got all hand, so hand is part of the ball, so it shouldn't even be a foul. But no, that's incorrect. If you take a hard swipe, like you wind up and do it, yeah, you may have only hit the hand or just the ball. But when you do that, the harder you do it, the faster you do it, the harder it is for us to see specifically where you hit the ball or the hand. You may have hit wrist, and then we're more likely going to call it. And I try to tell people that makes it real difficult for us as referees. So if you're going to play good defense, taking wild swings like that or slaps or it's just not good defense. So anyways, I'm getting way too much technical detail there. But but when I talked about intentional foul earlier was to separate that from the flagrant foul.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, everyone, if that's it, I think we're good to go. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.